It is, but I do hope the world opens up soon though, because personally I miss traveling. I miss, so my wife hasn't been to Firenze before, and I had promised her that our next trip, because she loves cheese, and I was going to introduce her to pecorino. And
yeah, good choice. Yeah, Parmigiano also is pretty good.
It is. So she's had Parmesan quite, but I had my first experience with pecorino last time I was in Firenze, and it was just, oh gosh, I missed it already.
Okay, we're good. Let's go. Can you hear me all right, Marco? Everything is fine? All right, let's admit Tolulope. Hey, Tolu. Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
Fine. How about you?
I'm good, thank you. Very good.
Nice. Thanks so much for accepting our invitation. I know that you have had some issues lately, so I'm so grateful that you've been able to do that.
It's fine. It's my pleasure.
So how is everything?
Good. Preparing for the funeral and all that, but it's good.
Oh, yes. Sorry for your loss. Condolences. Our condolences.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Look, Tolu, I'm so glad that you accepted our invitation. I just wanted to give you an idea of what we'll do and what is this.
Okay.
So basically, we are recording severing episodes of our brand new podcast, which is called Worldwide Design. It's a video podcast that we will broadcast on different channels in the next few weeks. And so once per week, we will broadcast a new episode.
Cool.
While we talk, our creative director of Tecnografica, Marco Fontana, will live hand draw. And so in order to make everything a little bit more interesting. And so basically what we are going to do and what we are doing with also other guests is having conversation with architects, interior designers, businessmen, CEOs to understand their opinion on the emergency situation that we are living today, and also how their countries are facing the situation differently. So I would like to start right away. Maybe if you can give us an idea of who you are and what do you do, what is your profession, in order to understand better your work and your projects.
Yeah, so thank you, Stefano. My name is Tolulope Okeowo. I live in Lagos, Nigeria. I am a property developer in the most high-end island called Banana Island. So basically what I do is to build high-end luxurious houses. So they're bespoke. So basically my model is that all the houses that I build, there are no two that are the same. They're all different designs, different architecture, and different interior. So they're particularly for specific clients, pretty much.
Cool. And how is this, let's say, pandemic situation influencing your job and your projects? How is the situation in Nigeria? Is everything in lockdown, or you are more free to go out?
So we've been on lockdown for, I think, over a month now, almost 2 months actually. But recently there has had to be a sort of lift on the lockdown, just a partial lift. So some people can come out, some can, so depending on the business you do. It affects us in a big way because construction, for instance, now we can only work from 9 a.m. till 2 p.m. So there's not much you can get done. And then you can't have more than 15 people per site, and my site here, for instance, one of my sites here, if I have 15 people there, I have about 30 houses. So 15 people in, across 30 houses can't do much. So it's going to slow down work quite a bit, but it's understandable. It's so that everyone can get well. So, we sort of understand why, the lockdown has to be in place, basically.
Yeah, no, I think that definitely, there are some countries where the pandemic is more serious and some others where it is less. But definitely globally, there will be an economic issue after this situation because of the reason that
Yes, exactly.
you just said.
Yeah.
And I was also very curious to know a bit more about Banana Island, your location where you work and live, because it's very fascinating to me, and I would like you to give us an idea of what is this place and how you are working there.
Okay, so the way it works in Lagos is you have different areas, in Lagos where they're graded separately in different ways. Now you find out that Banana Island is where you have, it's an area that's carved out. It was developed, many years ago, specifically to be a new sort of area, like a model area, for other developments in Nigeria. And somehow you find that a lot of wealthy people, a lot of high net worth people, live on Banana Island. So a lot of new construction, you find a lot of new construction there. You find a lot of new designs. You find a lot of creativity, because these people can afford to do all sorts of things. Designs, creativity. So you find quite a lot of that there. So it's a nice place to be. It's well designed, good infrastructure, good roads. And you find that a lot of people on the roads jogging, walking and jogging on the roads because it feels more secure. In fact, we have a lot of expatriates here in Banana Island as well. So it's a very nice place to be. And, when you have high net worth customers, clients, it gives you room to motivate your design and, the kind of things you put in the houses, stuff like that. Yeah,
definitely. So you are working on the highest level of the market and
yes.
serving.
Well, let's say the highest level and then a bit mid-range, because even in the highest level, even the highest level, you have people who can afford the highest. You have people that can afford the mid. So we do two ranges of houses. We do the smaller duplexes where you have semi-detached houses, and then we do the standalone, fully detached houses. So it varies. And then we also have the waterfront properties.
Okay.
So that's another level entirely. That's another, but at this level, it's a nice playing field because you have a lot of people who can afford to key into the projects.
Yeah. Basically. So it's a very special place within Nigeria. It's almost a country within a country. So it has its own...
It's like a city within a city because it's in Lagos. Lagos is the most populous state in Nigeria. Abuja is the capital, but Lagos is all of commerce in Nigeria. So in Lagos, you have Ikoyi. So Ikoyi is, that's where that's like the most opulent place. That was the most opulent place in Lagos. Then in Ikoyi, you now have Banana Island carved out. So, yeah.
Sure.
So it's quite nice. It's interesting. It's a nice place.
Oh yeah, no,
and it's surrounded by water. So it's nice. Yeah.
But that's why I asked you, because I was curious about this special place within the Lagos state. And so you are totally more focused on high-level residential project rather than commercial projects, or are you doing both?
Yes. No. So it's high level for now, only because. So this is what it is. The things that I like to do with construction and with design, the thing that you need a bit of money to afford, only because a lot of the things that we need to use, we need to bring from abroad. So for instance, if I want to use, so on a mid-level, on a low-income home, for instance, I probably can't use your wallpaper, or I can't use your smart panels. You understand? Not because they're very expensive in your currency, but if I'm going to buy from you, I have to convert my currency to your currency.
Yeah.
And I have to ship it all over to Nigeria. Now, I think to the euro today, I think Naira is about 400 or 405 Naira to €1. So, by the time you multiply that to the cost of one of your products, some people would not be able to afford it. You understand? So there's some things like that, like the height, like marble tiles, even the homogeneous ones, like nice finishes, nice kitchens and things like that. For you to buy a good Italian kitchen, for instance, you need to spend some good money, even in euros. How much more than converting to Naira, or converting from Naira and then having to ship it all the way here. So, that makes it, you can still do that on the commercial side or on the low level income side, but it's not as, on this level.
Definitely. Yeah. It's also not so easy as I know how this things works to import from Europe or US
Exactly.
in certain countries. Also seeing the taxes, the importation taxes and fees.
Exactly, all of those things. Exactly. So even though your products are affordable, by the time you put all the taxes on top of it, by the time you put on the shipping on top of it, getting here and then the installation, you realize that not many people can afford to.
Oh yeah. Even less than in Europe, for example, because they don't have those fees, and even though maybe a European kitchen is higher in cost rate than a Chinese kitchen, let's say.
Exactly.
But definitely importing this in Nigeria, for example, it's even more expensive. Cool.
It is. Then clearing, there's some of these things that cost quite a lot to clear at the port. The clearing fees in Nigeria are quite high. Because it tried to stop us from bringing some of these things so that we can produce ours here, which is understandable. So, so that happens from time.
Tolu, I was also very interested in knowing your opinion regarding the situation in Africa in general. I mean, despite this COVID-19 situation that is going on right now, how do you think Africa will face the next years? Maybe focusing more on the economic and, let's say, interior design architectural point of view.
Yeah. So the truth is, I think one of the biggest issues we have in Africa is our dependence on the first world countries. So dependent on countries like America or like the UK or like France, like Italy, things like that. Because really, actually, when you think about it, this pandemic hasn't, like in Italy, for instance. So the death rate we have in Italy is far higher than what we have in Nigeria here.
Yeah.
And scientists believe that is due to the climate, first of all, and then due to the fact that, we have a high level of immunity in the sense of, we've had the more dangerous diseases like malaria, for instance. If you go to Europe now, malaria is strange to some of the doctors in Europe. But here in Nigeria, malaria is normal. And we've always had medicine for it. And strangely enough, the medicine we've always had for malaria has been chloroquine. That has been the thing we're talking about. Yeah, exactly, that works for COVID-19.
Oh, yeah.
So, I'm not a scientist, but it seems as if all these things work together, as regards our immunity, I think, because people are not falling dead on the streets daily. It's not as we thought it was going to be, hence the partial lift on the lockdown. So what I think is because we're so dependent on other countries for what we do. For instance, we already have an impact based on the value of the naira to the dollar. So the dollar, for instance, at some point in a few weeks ago, used to be 1 naira to, I think, $360 US. As of last week, it was 1 naira to about $450 US. It's come down a bit now, back to 405. But I know that it's also because of the influence of the global market. So what's going to happen at the end of the day? That's for Nigeria. I think it might be the same for a few other African countries. Now, some of them produce, like South Africa, some of them produce some things. Some other African countries produce a few things. But for countries who don't produce things as regards interior design, as regards construction, they probably would have to prices in being able to ship some of these things in, for instance. And for those who do produce, I think for those who are not producing it would be good for them to begin to produce, and then use local things. Like now, people have had to be innovative in some items to make some better, woodwork, some better So now we have machines, we have CNC cutting machines. People are doing designs with laser cutting. Yeah, so people are looking inwards more than having to bring things in. So for instance, all the time, all my buildings, for instance, I always bring everything in. All the tiles, the finishes, the interior design, I bring almost practically everything into Nigeria. But now I'm having to source locally to see who can make what, you know. So that so it's not even just for the cost. It's also now borders are shut. So I want something from Italy now, for instance, to chip the new one, you know, in the cylinder, in the tubular container. You can send that by air. But even if you want to send it, you can't receive it because airports are shut.
Oh yeah.
You know, so if I had a deadline, I would have to find someone who can sing locally. I have to resort to maybe getting tiles locally and using tiles for the feature wall, things like that. Yeah.
This is very interesting because seeing this situation that it is going on, you have been forced to rely on local supplier for certain things, and
Exactly.
and maybe this can be a push for the African manufacturers also to have a new start.
Yes. Yeah, and it's a good push. Only thing is, the truth of the matter is you can't, because of our different cultures and because of our different backgrounds, your designs and what you come up with would be different from what's down here come up with. Like what you have behind you. What you have behind you, you have the palms behind you, you have the what's it name?
Yeah,
you have the monkey, you have all that behind you.
Yeah, a lot of
so
things.
an African would not interpret artwork like that. So if I wanted that in my house, for instance, I probably wouldn't be able to get an African to just think of that from the top of my head.
Cool. Yeah.
So
yeah.
So that variety in how the world have different things. I like it. I always like it when I look around my house and find something here from Italy, maybe from Florence, something here from Paris, something from in my house I have stuff from Valencia, I have stuff from China, I have stuff from Florence actually. I have stuff from everywhere. I like talking about it. Oh, when I was in the flea market here, I got London, maybe in Hackney or London. When I was, I like things from all the place.
I'm losing you a bit. I think is your connection is.
Is it better now?
Yeah, a bit better. Yeah.
Better now? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
No, it's.
So I was just talking about the fact that it's nice to have that diversity from all over the world. It's very nice.
Definitely. Yeah, and as you said, here, for example, at my back we have some African-inspired wallpaper, and also this monkey here is one of our brand new product. Is called Decora Lamp. It's basically a luminous device with several forms and other things. So it is pretty interesting. But as you said, if you are from Africa, maybe you will more likely like to have something from Europe, from Italy, from France, or from Asia. Exactly, maybe I want to have something from Africa, something that is not within my culture. No, it is interesting because Africa and especially some countries, and especially Nigeria, they're always usually mentioned as countries that will develop very quickly in the next few years, and that they will have a very important role in the next decades. So I was wondering how also this COVID-19 situation is impacting this. And as you said, this can be, for example, a small example. As you said, I can no longer import goods from Italy or Europe because of this emergency situation. So I'm relying on local dealers, local manufacturers, and this could be a small example of what will going on.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
So let's say that the COVID-19 situation is not really something that you are feeling that much in your country. I mean, people, you're in lockdown, and I think maybe people are wearing masks, but you have not had so many cases, not so many deaths as in other countries. So I think the perception is different.
Yeah, but also, so there are two sides to that coin, because what it is because we got the information early, before it got to us, what we did was we locked down the border, and
Mm.
we got people to stay at home in the major states. Not all the states, just the major states. But the issue we have with that is there are lots of people, a lot of workers in Nigeria that, they get paid on a daily or on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
So they've not had the opportunity to save. They eat from hand to mouth, basically, in lots of sectors in Nigeria. So what happened was, even though we didn't feel the effect of people dying from the COVID itself, even though we have a few numbers, even though we didn't feel that effect, as largely as, say, Italy, what we did feel was a lot of people going hungry.
Mm.
So we had to have a lot of initiatives where people had to give palliatives, where people had to step in and begin to make donations, get food packs from companies and distribute in areas, just to make sure that people had food to eat. So for instance, a few of my workers, because here, unlike Italy, we depend more on physical labor than on machines. So on the construction site, you have more people than you have construction equipment, than you have machines, basically.
Yeah.
So where we don't have to use machines, people are there to do the work, that sort of thing. So what would then happen is, for a site like mine, for instance, where you have close to 100 people working per week, per day, per week, you find out that if we can't do any work, we can't pay them, because they're all on contract basis, where they're all on daily or weekly pay, so to speak. So if we're not able to pay them, they're not able to have any food to eat. And if we don't have any work, if we're not working, we can't pay them. We can only, help them as we can. So that cuts across quite a lot of industries in Nigeria. So what happened was, people suffered a lot. People have suffered in the last few months from not having enough to eat, so somehow the pandemic itself has had quite a toll on the people as regards that. So even if someone is not being sick from catching the disease itself,
has been affected, even maybe
exactly,
indirectly,
anyway.
But it has been, yeah, definitely.
And no matter how much money you have, your cars are useless at this time. Your money is useless actually, unless you're feeding somebody else with it. You can't go anywhere. You can't travel anywhere. There's nothing you can do. So it's also been a good time for people to rise up and actually help, for people to stand up and begin to help others. So there's been more of a communal sense. It's exposed a lot of things. It's exposed our government. It's exposed our weaknesses, basically. Our religious houses, our churches, and it's really exposed all our weaknesses. Definitely. So the hope is that at the end of this season, which I can't believe is happening in our time, is that people will have better relationships. I think the world has come together more.
Yeah. I'm doing, as I told you, several interviews with people from all over the world, and one thing that always come up is this one: that this is a situation that that we are all living together, and maybe after this situation there will be a better sense of community.
Exactly.
Another topic that we always face during this conversation is the digital revolution, which has already happened for years now. That started maybe 5-10 years ago, I would say, in a very heavy way. And so I was wondering, in your opinion, do you think that the digital revolution, so using tools like the one that we are using now, Zoom, or advertising more on social media, that this is something that are you also looking for the future for your business?
Well, yes. So I'm a fan of technology. I've always loved technology. In fact, I always say to my wife that I'm glad we were born in this decade, in this era, in the sense that I can't imagine years ago when there was no technology and we couldn't do things on the fly. Like now, I can do documents on the go on my phone. I use my phone for everything. Documents, for whatever it is, I can just get it done on my phone. Even for designs, on my iPad, I pick up the iPencil and I, make changes to the building designs and things like that. Also talking to you, for instance, the things. So my wife is an artist.
Mm-hmm.
She's creating wallpaper for my children's rooms, and so we'll be sending the drawings to you digitally, and then you make the product and you send to us. That's the beauty of going digital. Zoom, for instance, you want to show me samples or I want to show you stuff, I can come on Zoom and walk around with the phone or with the camera and show you different stuff. You can advertise your stuff like the monkey, people can see everything without having to go there. Yeah. Sometimes you can't experience the feel. So I've had the privilege of coming to your factory and your showroom. So I've seen your products, I've felt your products, I've been able to appreciate them. So some people might not enjoy that in the near future, but they can at least see. They can see the application. I see your stuff on Instagram all the time, for instance, and I see how you apply your wallpaper from place to place and stuff like that. I see the sort of designs that come. I see the color combinations, the design combinations. So I think really the world, the beauty of this is it's really made the world a smaller place. I can order things from China right now because I've been there, I've seen a lot of things, and I've bought some things from there. If I want to reorder, I just call my people there and get the same product again. Stuff like, okay, I'll give you an example. My elevator, it had an issue the other day. Mm-hmm. It gave an error code. So I called the installers here and they didn't know what to do. So they got on Zoom straight away and called the manufacturer in China, straight away. And they gave them the codes to use, told them what to do. And in a few minutes, it was working again, straight away. So that's the beauty of this.
And and this is also impacting the costs of everything, because
exactly.
As for example, Italy has been impacted a lot by this pandemic. So even for us, for our Italian commercial agents, it was impossible to go and visit Italian clients, even because everything was closed and so on. So being able to do this type of conversation with clients and showing the new product, showing new materials, this is also making us save a lot of money, because maybe you are doing 10 Zoom calls per day, one with a person in Milan, another one in Naples, and then Rome, Florence, and you don't have to take your car and go there every day.
Exactly.
Of course, the personal relationship is always very important, and being able to meet face to face is paramount. But it is also definitely very quicker and easier to work in this way.
It is, but I do hope the world opens up soon, though, because personally I miss traveling. I miss, so my wife hasn't been to Firenze before, and I had promised her that our next trip, because she loves cheese, and I was going to introduce her to pecorino.
Yeah, good choice. Yeah, Parmigiano also is pretty good.
It is. So she's had Parmesan quite a bit, but I had my first experience with pecorino last time I was in Firenze, and it was just, oh gosh, I missed it already. So
I feel it.
So stuff like that, So I missed that. There was a time when I could. So usually, because we lived in London for about 15 years, so being in Lagos now, what we do is we have a box we buy stuff in the UK or in the US, and we ship them down to Lagos almost every other week. But we can't do that now. So we miss all those things. We miss all the cheeses. We miss all the, But, well, soon.
You're in lack of good cheese and good wine. As soon as we can, I will dispatch you a good bottle of the wine that we tasted when you came in Italy.
Yes.
The Lambrusco one, very young wine, very sparkling. Fresh.
Sparkling and nice and light. And very good.
Very good for.
I'll be happy for that. Please add some pecorino to that.
Will do. Will do. Cool.
Yeah.
And another question that I usually do to our guests is if they think that, and if you think that this pandemic has changed the world forever. After this situation, the world would be different, and if yes, in which ways?
First of all, it's going to change human contact. human contact will be very different. Well, okay, let me start with this. First of all, people are going to be more healthy because now we're taking care of ourselves. We're being more hygienic, first of all, and we're working out more. We're exercising. We're trying to make sure that our immune levels are high. We're trying to boost our immune system. So that's one. Two, human contact will never be the same. You know, we're going to appreciate handshakes more. Even hugs, we're going to appreciate them more. You know, even being together in the same room, we're going to appreciate it more. I miss going to restaurants, for instance. So stuff like that will be different. The way we go into a restaurant to eat, the way we go to football games, the way we go into the theater, or into the cinema to watch movies. It's going to be very, very different. It's never going to be the same, again. But, it's going to be for good because now we're more into, so any relationship you have with anyone now, you're going to appreciate it more, because some people have lost a lot of people now, so it's like whoever is left, we're going to appreciate whoever is left. We're going to work smarter. We're going to work smarter now. We're all looking for ways to work smarter right now. Some people are going to go out of work, so they're going to have to change their skill sets. You understand? So banking is going to be different, because they're going to have less people in banking halls. Your factory will be more automated than normal, because you need to have fewer people around, and the way your processes work would then be different. It's like, okay, so like what you did with the smart panel, before you had to, one of the issues I had with buying a smart panel before was you had to have it in a crate to ship it. But now that it's just in the tube, you can it can go by air, it doesn't have to go by sea. So things are going to have to change in that wise. A lot of things, the world is not going to be the same. Yeah. The air is cleaner. I was out the other day and I saw that everywhere was just clean. I could see far, there was no fog, it was just nice and, so yeah.
And you know what I'm also realizing that right now, if you go outside for a run or for jogging or for a bike ride, you see people that never left their house before the situation. They're starting to run right now. So from this point of view, as you said, I think this will be a positive impact. So people will be more healthy. And
we'll all be better for it.
Yeah. And how about the smart working topic? Is this something that you are using, that your employees are using, that your clients are using? And in general, how is the smart working reception and situation in Nigeria?
Yeah, so now, for instance, I'll give you my example because it's happening to me directly. Now, before we had like 8 to 5 to work on construction sites. So there'll be a 1 hour break in between. Right now, we only have 9 to 2. So for some work, we pay the artisans per day. For some, we pay them per hour. Now, for most of them, we pay per day, really. So my per day has become 9 to 2 instead of 8 to 5. So I've lost about 4 hours there, So now what I'm going to expect from them per day would be different from what I was expecting before.
Oh, yeah.
Because the rates, I probably won't change the rates, because of inflation and all that. But they would need to give me more quality for the time, And if it's a situation where they can't give me more quality for the time, they would have to sort of adjust the rate and find a way to make it work. But what that's done is it has changed all our processes, because if we do 9 to 2, a 2-year production take 3 years, and we can't afford that. The more time you spend in construction, the more money you spend. So we need to make sure that we find ways of prioritizing. So where you have different artisans working in the building at different times, to ensure that we don't have a lag of time, and to make it worse here, actually, what they're saying to us here is, if you have a group of tilers working in the building, for instance, they have to come out first of all before another group of people go into the building. Yeah. So that impacts it. So now we really need to prioritize who goes in first, who comes out next, and then again, having 15 people, 15 people where we would have close to 100 people. That's, so really we have to find ways to make the work smarter. So we're reviewing all our processes right now. We're changing all our schedules, reviewing processes, seeing how, and I've seen that we've actually wasted time and money in the past, by looking at these things. Before we have everybody on site, but I realized that we actually don't have to have everyone on site at the same time. let some people come and do some things they have to do, put them on a timeline. Once they're done with it, everybody out. The next group come in, do what. So it's now target focused more than ever before.
No,
so it's good.
Definitely.
It's good. And then we're having to use technology for quite a lot of things. I don't have to sit with the architects anymore. We just do it on Zoom. I make changes on my iPad, send to them straight away. We're on the same workspace. So that sort of thing. So, it's not bad actually. So it's good.
It's I think it's a matter of start to understand that this will be the new normal after the situation,
it is the new normal.
At least for some time. And
yes,
no, it is very interesting. It's even interesting for me to understand different opinions from different players of the same field of architectural field, interior design, from all over the countries. And what I'm seeing right now is more or less the ideas and the arguments and topics are always the same, even though maybe countries is a bit different. This is
the same.
This is maybe also another sign of how things are becoming smaller and smaller, and the world is becoming smaller and smaller as well.
Yeah. And then again, what happens is, you begin to appreciate people from other places even more. So, for instance, what you never knew about Nigeria or like Lagos, you would know quite easily because you're not just reading from a book or watching on TV. You're talking to somebody who's there, who's experiencing things right there. Same thing vice versa. You get to, I know you have clients from all over the world. You get to see what they're facing. You get to talk to them and understand what they're going through. So it's quite different. We're more empathetic to people now. You have more sympathy for them. You're more patient with people. You don't see them. You hardly see them anyway. So you're happy to see people. You're happy to talk. You're happy to, So so it's good. I mean, hopefully at the end of this, it'll get even better at the end of this, and we'll have better relationships. I don't have to be with you for you to send me pecorino.
Yeah.
You don't know Lagos, so I don't know what I'll send to you from here, but.
Yeah, exactly. No, I hope that at least after this situation, something positive will happen. But I believe that this is one of those things that is helping the society in doing a big leap further compared to how they were organized before. We're now broader-minded. We're no longer narrow-minded. We're opening our minds to new experiences, to new relationships. We're seeing things differently now. I was going to say earlier, for instance, there hasn't been terrorism for a while. Yeah.
Hate has reduced. Yeah, because everybody's fighting for their lives. Yeah. So there's less hate in the world right now.
Yeah. Also,
that's wonderful.
Homicide rates in all over the countries has decreased 1,000%. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Cool. Tolu, was amazing to talk to you regarding several topics. I think it has come out a very good episode, and I think we will stream this in about 3-4 weeks.
No problem.
And it will be pretty cool.
It will be. I enjoyed this very much.
Yeah, me too. Tolu, thanks so much again. I hope to see you here in Italy or maybe in Nigeria. I will be more than glad to come and see the place. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because we have to work together. My wife wants to be. She was about to begin a new business before this thing began. She's a very, very good artist. So she wants to begin a new line of wallpaper for children.
Cool.
Yeah. So and I've said to her, obviously. So we're coming to you. So she's been doing her designs, getting ready for all that. So so there's still so much more to come.
We'll be more than happy, and you know that now with digital technologies, everything is pretty easy and quick.
It's easy, very easy now. No problem.
Cool. Tolu,
thank you so much.
Thanks so much again, and we'll be in touch very soon.
Very soon, certainly. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye. Ciao.